Okay, today we're looking at the prayer of knowing, continuing our Journey Home series. And we talk about prayer quite a bit, and in a way that is different from what probably most of us grew up thinking. We see it as a twofold process, a process of releasing the negative and affirming the positive, not trying to change the mind of God. And we'll see that we did not set the precedent for that. Basically, it was Jesus who did it. And this comes from the New International Version, so the language is just a little different than what we're used to. But he says, "When you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him." So, have you ever babbled a prayer? Said it so many times that you thought maybe eventually it would be heard? And what that illustrates is a mindset. The God to whom we are praying maybe needs a hearing aid, a little hard of hearing. But what Jesus is talking about here, or what we can read into this, is there's an underlying message. There's actually about 3 underlying messages here that are worth exploring, which we'll do. 2 of the main points are prayer does not require many words. Prayer is a mindset, a mental and emotional process of releasing our reaction to negative appearances and affirming that greater good is unfolding. So why the many words? Why do we babble? And I'm not saying we as we're doing that, because we know better. But if you go on YouTube and find a traditional service where people are praying and they're praising God and praising Jesus and all of this stuff, it's a very vocal thing, as if the more we do that and the more numbers we gather together to do that, the more likely we are to get the attention of God. And what that demonstrates to us is an underlying understanding that God is an old man in the sky. God has anthropomorphic qualities, human qualities, and that we are addressing God much the same way we would address a person. So Jesus says that doesn't do much good to babble many words. That's not what prayer is. And we say it is. We can memorize prayers. We've all memorized the Lord's Prayer. There are several versions of it, but they're all pretty similar. There are many prayers that have been passed down through the ages, and they carry some pretty profound ideas. But what does affirming something like the Lord's Prayer do? Does God look at us favorably and say, well, he's memorized the Lord's Prayer, so I think I'll answer it, whatever he's asking. I'll do him a favor. The whole idea of a memorized prayer is that to us it is a reminder of underlying principles. Our Father who art in heaven, for example. It's not say, God, I'm talking to you, I want your attention. It is the one doing the praying that is turning their attention to God as their source. And God is a loving Father. God is a loving supplier. It's an attitude. That sentence, our Father who art in heaven, is an attitude. And the words embody that attitude that we are to take. So when we say that, and we say any memorized prayer, the whole idea is for us to change, to open our mind to what we're praying or how we're praying. It's a focus. It doesn't do one thing to change the nature or behavior of God. And that's where we have been misled. Again, it would be like saying to the sun, there's a little bit of an overcast today, so we would say, why aren't you out? Would you shine for me? Because I'm having a birthday party, and I'm wanting the best weather, and I want sunshine, I want happiness, and all the stuff that goes with a bright sunny day. The sun just shines. It's shining now, and there's something that's blocking it a bit, and that's a cloud cover. But there's no attitude with the sun. There's nothing that we will do that will change the behavior of the sun. And we must think of God in that way. Otherwise, we're going to get ourselves in this sin and punishment trap. My prayer is not answered because I've done something wrong. I've done something that's not pleasing to God, so I must do something to please God. But there is nothing we can say or do that will change what God is doing now and how God is doing it, any more than our attitudes will change the way the universe is spinning and working and in order. Nothing we do changes that. It changes our perception of that. It's like when it was first discovered that the earth was not the center of the universe. The priesthood would not look into the telescope because they knew how it worked. The earth was the center of the universe, and there's no sense in wasting our time looking through this piece of glass. So that was the perception, and we have this very similar perceptions today, that if we get thousands of people together and we all praise Jesus, that the behavior of God is going to favor us. I've heard TV evangelists say this, that God will favor you if you behave a certain way. But that's not possible any more than gravity favoring you because you behave a certain way. Gravity always behaves the same way. You may trip and fall. You may stumble. But gravity itself has not changed. You're not breaking a law by falling down. You're fulfilling the law. But there's no attitude involved at all. And that's what we have to get over, and it's very difficult to do because we've been taught that God thinks like a human being and that we can offend God. And so we babble prayers of many words, thinking that somehow that's going to influence God. So Jesus is saying that that doesn't do one bit of good. It doesn't do anything at all to change God. And so we look at prayer in a different way. It's a mindset. It's a mental and emotional process of releasing our reaction to a negative appearance and affirming that greater good is now unfolding. When we have a problem, something's going on in our life, we just ask the question, where is that problem? Where is it happening? Where's the battlefield? Where's the issue? Where's that emotional trigger that's got me so upset? Where's that happening? And you can go out and look for it someplace, but you'll never find it. It is going on in us. We say prayer changes things. It doesn't really change things. It changes us. That's what we have to remember. We are not begging and beseeching God to change, to give us something that's been withheld. We are going through a twofold process of looking at this negative experience I'm having, these thoughts and these feelings that I'm praying will somehow be resolved. The first thing I do is begin to release those. Whose negative feelings are they? Who owns them? Who runs them? And that would be us. So prayer is the first step of prayer is to release the negative energy we're giving an appearance. Don't judge according to appearances. And what I'm saying is a very difficult thing to do. When you've got something there, it's right in your face, and it looks pretty bad. And you're having this reaction to it. And of course you want this angelic army or God to send all of the warriors to come and take care of this problem. But where does that occur? It first occurs within us. Prayer is an attitude. It's a releasing. It begins as a releasing of that negative energy, that negative reaction that we're having. And the intellectual mind will look at all the facts and they'll justify that negative reaction. And it is justified. It's the Israelites fleeing Egypt and seeing the Egyptians coming in their chariots and seeing the Red Sea on the other side. Pretty important facts. And a real reason to be terrified. So the prayer that Moses offered was a change of attitude. First thing is fear not. So you think of yourself in your prayer. I'm asking God to change something. Moses didn't say, let's ask God to get rid of these Egyptians. The first thing he said was fear not. And is that an action, a request directed to God? It's an action of the people. You say, fear not. Well, I can't help it. Well, if you can't help it, if you can't release your own fear, who can? Nobody can. So what you would like God to do is smite the Egyptians while they're on their way. But the second command was to lift up your eyes. Again, that's not directed to God, and it's not saying let's look up to heaven. It's look above the problem. That's a releasing. Don't look at the Egyptians. Lift up your eyes and see beyond. And that's what he said the third thing to do, is see the salvation that the Lord will work for you today. Whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe you've received it. So even in that prayer formula, and that formula is actually used about 3 or 4 times in the Old Testament, almost identical, different situations, but it's those 3 commands. Not one of them is directed to God. They're all 3 directed to the people that are terrified. So that's prayer. And the prayer, the story says, was answered. And it was answered in a pretty bizarre way. And it's not really important as to whether we try to figure that out historically, if it actually happened or not. That's not the point. Because the different stories that use that same formula, they're completely different. The outworking is completely different, but that's always the command. So it's a change of attitude in us. Prayer is an attitude. It's not words. It's not words that we babble or repeat. In Unity, we teach affirmation, the power of affirmation, affirmative statements. And we could easily buy into the idea that the more I say this affirmation, the more true it is. But James Dale Freeman used to say that we don't speak an affirmation to make it true. We say it because it is true. And if it is true, who are we telling that it's true? We're telling ourselves. We're reminding ourselves that it's true. If you're dealing with a health challenge, for example, you would begin to affirm health, not to try to force that issue, but to affirm that I, as a spiritual being, have never known an ill day in my life. My spirit cannot be sick. And I express that wholeness that I am at the spiritual level through my body. I'm not asking God to give me something I don't have. I'm unblocking the flow in my own thinking first. It's a very simple idea, but we have to get away from this begging, beseeching. And the entire traditional or fundamental Christian foundation rests on God as an old man in the sky. God as a human characteristics, as having human characteristics that can be influenced. The whole thing rests on that because it says, you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, God's attitude toward you will change. That's the whole idea. So if you don't accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, you're toast. God is going to be angry at you, or maybe not angry, but just will say, you know, I warned you. I gave you the way, but you blew it. That's how they want us to think God thinks and behaves. And the whole religious industry is built on that idea that human beings can influence God. And to say I have faith is to say I embrace this Christian ideal. I embrace this dogmatic notion that my behavior changes the attitude or the behavior of God. It doesn't. It changes the way I relate to God. And that's what I think Jesus is saying. Babbling many words doesn't change anything, not even you. You may feel better, or you may think you've done something, and you wait and see how God responds to that. But it's a very shallow approach to the presence of God, and I think Jesus totally got that, totally understood that. People of his day would dress in prayer shawls. They would have these, I can't think of the name, what they're called, you probably know, a little box you'd wrap around your arm. And the what? Phylactery. Yeah, phylactery. All kinds of ways, or you can count beads, or you can do whatever. And, you know, there's not anything wrong with any of that stuff, except the attitude that says, I did this, so now God will reward me. Now God will begin to behave differently because I've fulfilled everything. Jesus talks about the long fringes on the robes and so forth that represent a prayer consciousness, I guess. Or, in other words, the way you look changes the way God behaves. And that's always been believed. And I think that's why we see so much pomp and circumstance in the Catholic Church and other denominations, because we're trying to make an impression on God. And as long as we believe that, you know, we might as well stay in it, we might as well continue to do it. But the time comes, somebody like Jesus stands up and says, that's not the way it works. There's another way. You're approaching God as you would be approaching a human being. And God is not human being. God is life. God is universal intelligence. God is like the sun that shines on the just and the unjust. It's law. You must learn to relate to God as law. It's a whole different thing. The second point, and this is pretty interesting, is Jesus does not say that your Father knows what you want. He says your Father knows what you need. So you're praying for something. He says your Heavenly Father already knows what you need. But you're praying for something you want. So there's a difference. Some of these things are sort of subtle, except when you start thinking about them, they're pretty profound. There's often a difference between what we want and what may provide the greatest advances in our journey home. You may, for example, have some obnoxious personality in your life. You probably never have had one of those, but in case you have, you want them to just go away, so that would be the focus of the prayer. What we need, however, is the insight to rise above our negative reaction to this person. Why am I giving them power to control my thoughts and emotions? Why am I giving them power to make me feel as if I must defend myself? Our prayer would be centered around somehow God changing or helping to get that person's attitude or behavior to change. But if a person is causing us problems, again, we look at ourselves. Who's doing the reacting? Who's having the problem? Where is that going on? It's not out there someplace. It's within us. So when we think about prayer, we would say, why am I responding in this way? Why am I reacting to this personality in this way? Why am I giving them the power to upset me? That's the question, and that's where prayer begins. That person's behavior doesn't seem to be upsetting God. God doesn't smite them with lightning bolts or anything like that because they're annoying you. It's like God doesn't change at all. But we're having this experience, we're having this problem, we're having this reaction to this negative personality, and so our prayer tends to be, God, help me deal with this person. Help them see the light, help them change, or help me find the right word that would get through to them. But what if you could sit right where you are and overcome that reaction? What if you could do that? What if you discovered you could do that? And you then think about the person that's bothering you, and you can apply this to anything, not just a person, but any situation. If you can dissolve that while you're sitting where you are, then you have successfully prayed. And I've always said that you know your prayer is answered when you experience peace about it. You can think about the thing or the person, whatever you're dealing with, and be at peace. You may not know how it's going to work out, but you know it is. That's answered prayer. It's not the resolution of the thing in the outer. That's not where it really happens. It gets there eventually. But when we're talking about prayer, we're talking about attitude, and when we talk about answered prayer, that means we're talking about a change of attitude. One moment I'm afraid, one moment I'm angry, one moment I'm wondering why this person is who they are. Why are they doing this to me? And the next moment is, I'm greater than that. I'm not reacting to that. They don't have power over me. So prayer is an attitude. Answered prayer is a change of attitude. And you can experience it right where you are. And that's the important thing, that we just don't get that. We don't think that's a practical answer. How can I just change my thought about a person and expect that problem to go away? If you have a person or a situation going on that is negative to you, try this. Try letting that go. You know, that's the Egyptian that's coming to destroy you. First thing is fear not, or change the attitude. Why am I responding to this person in this way? Lift up your eyes. It's not them. that's doing it to you. Don't look at them. Look at your own inner experience. And see the salvation that the Lord will work for you today. That is, allow yourself to rise above the reaction you've been having to the point where you actually feel peace about it. And that change of attitude is the answer that you're looking for. So you do that, you successfully do that, 10 minutes later you're back fighting them again. So do it again. If you do it once, you'll understand how it works. If you succeed at doing it once, you'll understand how it works. And every time that person comes up, that thing comes up and begins to plague you, do it again. We will forget. That's the problem. We're in the mindset that we have, which is also a prayer, is reaction. They're in charge of me. They're in charge of my emotions. They're going to make me feel angry. They're going to make me feel sad. They have the power to make me feel something. That's the mindset that I'm in. That's a prayer. And I will prove myself right. And I have to interrupt that. I have to get to the point where I acknowledge what is going on. That's why Paul, I think, said, pray without ceasing. I pray without ceasing. I'm always aware of what's going on in my mind, because that's my prayer. So your spiritual source knows nothing but freedom. And that's why Jesus would say the Father knows what you need even before you ask. And if you think of it this way, don't think of the Father as this old man that knows what your needs are. Think of it as a stream of water flowing, and you build this dam. You dam it up. It stands to reason that the creative life force knows what you're doing to block the free expression of spirit. Its primary interest is freeing you from the consequences of that blockage. As a kid, we would find a small stream someplace and build a dam, and there was something fun about that. But the water knows how to get through that. It knows the need of its flow, of its movement, even while we're building the dam. If you think of the creative life force as a stream of energy flowing through you, you built this dam of thought, of emotion. But that creative life force knows how to dissolve that, even before you ask for the answer. That's how we think of it. There's an intelligence in me that knows how to remove this blockage even before I ask, because that's its nature, freedom. Just like the water. It flows downhill and it'll fill up whatever we dam, wherever we build our little dam, it'll fill that up, and then it'll begin to breach it. It'll begin to go over it, around it, through it. It knows the need to flow. It knows how to accomplish that. And that same energy is working through us. It knows even before we ask how to address whatever need we have. It's like building a small dam in a stream. You can stop the flow of water for a time, but the blockage will eventually be removed by the natural action of the water. So Jesus is not saying that God is this old man sitting up there knowing ahead of time what you need before you ask. He's saying the nature of the creative life force is freedom. It knows how to establish freedom. We're not asking God to do anything. We're not asking the stream to behave any differently. It knows how to seek the lowest level. It knows how to do what it does. So we're embracing this idea that there's this divine wisdom in me that knows how to break the dam. And the dam is always consciousness. It's always some level of thought that we hold that is blocking our freedom. Because the moment we react to somebody or react to a negative condition, we're imprisoned by those emotions. It can happen in the blink of an eye, and it does often. And we're so used to it, we just think it's normal. And I have said before, it's normal, but it's not natural. What's natural is for that stream to flow freely. The creative life force through us, flowing through us, is a stream. It knows how to achieve freedom, and it knows how to tell you what you're hanging on to that's causing the blockage. So that's prayer. It's to make an adjustment, adjusting our thought, our emotion to how the creative life force works. Its objective is freedom. Our freedom is its number one concern in terms of our personal experience. It knows how to reveal to us that which is blocking the flow. And formally speaking, we call that prayer. We make an adjustment. So carry your prayer throughout your day, not in words, but in the attitude that the best and highest is now working through you. Add to your stated desire the understanding that that which you need is now being made clear. You know what to do, and you do it. And that's the prayer of knowing. All right? Thank you for coming out. Next week we'll pick up another topic on this line. So see you then, and stay cool.
You've been watching a talk given by Reverend Doug Bottorff here at Independent Unity in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us spread our message. If you would like to support us, you can do so by clicking the button in the right-hand corner of the video screen. We greatly appreciate your support. Thanks again for watching.